I mean, what is the specific American culture, for example? How would you articulate it?
Why exactly? If you didn't want to assimilate to American culture, live as an American, why exactly would you leave the country that you came from to begin with if you're only going to bring your culture's customs and norms and implement...
Not the question I asked. Learn to listen.
Priya Patel wants immigrants to adopt an American culture she literally can't articulate or define. Her response exposes how little thought she's put into this. But hey, at least she doesn't want the government to force people to follow the American culture that she can't define, because that would be crazy.
We have cultures and norms that we have a duty to uphold as a society.
Such as?
And I think that it should be enforced to some degree. And whether it's on a societal or a governmental level, I guess that's up for us to eventually decide, but it has to be implemented some way or another.
How can you say with a straight face the government should enforce something you can't even define?
Cretinous fuckwit!
The whole point of the conservative movement is to prioritize America and conserve what America stands for and what it means to be American.
I thought America stood for allowing people the freedom to express parts of other cultures, and that's why you have Little Italy, Chinatown, Little Havana, Little Tokyo, Dearborn, Leavenworth, etc. Priya always talks vaguely. She never seems able to define the specific parts of American culture that she likes and wants immigrants to follow. Just something I noticed.
Well, bully for you.
Now Priya will tell us what she doesn't like, and I'll make her look a bit silly by showing how it's actually a part of the American culture she wants immigrants to adhere to.
Child marriage. Yeah. And you're going to tell me that we should embrace the cultures that allow and accept those. Yeah. You're telling me that we need to allow and embrace those here in America? I think not. We are a conservative Christian nation in principles.
Child marriage is still embraced and accepted in many US states, and it seems that 27 of those states are Republican controlled. And one of the reasons people are pro-child marriage is religious freedom. So she advocates for conservative Christian principles, but she's anti-child marriage, and there's conservative Christians who would allow their kids to marry. She's literally defending a culture she's against.
I'm Mike Moon. I represent Missouri's 29th Senate District. I do not support adults marrying minors.
So brave.
But he does support 12-year-olds marrying 12-year-olds.
This bill intended to raise the age at which minors could legally marry from age 15 to 17.
FYI.
Mike was the only person who voted against it, confirming he's okay with minors marrying minors.
I was reminded of a couple I'd met years before. When this couple was in their teens, actually preteens.
Sorry, what? Preteens.
Then why did you say teens, eh, Mike? I mean, it's a good job you corrected yourself, because the magical invisible man you pray to doesn't like bearing false witness, does he?
Do you know any kids who have been married at age 12?
I don't need to.
I do. And guess what? They're still married.
And there's the proof that Mike's okay with parents allowing their 12-year-olds to marry. Anyway, point is, Mike's a conservative Christian lawmaker, and he's a part of the American culture, all things Priya promotes. And Mike is okay with minors marrying minors, which is a thing Priya's against. I can't find any clips of her stating a positive American cultural norm except the vague idea of conservative Christian principles. But as I just illustrated, her idea of what those principles are doesn't match another conservative Christian, and Mike has the ability to shape American culture. You know, because he's a lawmaker. Remember, Priya said she wants the government to enforce cultural norms, but Mike will enforce ones she doesn't want.
Wah, wah, wah.
Me and Priya agree kids should not get married, and yet I'm a liberal atheist. Mike's on your side religiously and politically, yet you align with my values on this particular topic.
Ideas or thoughts you want to share?
Which cultures, in your view, are inferior?
Afghanistan would be a good example.
That's a country, not a culture.
Well, of course, the culture that comes from Afghanistan. We can talk about the Muslim culture that comes from the Middle Eastern countries.
Then why don't you? Why are you saying that a whole country is inferior to your culture that you can't define, and not giving specific examples of which parts of other cultures you think yours that you can't define is better than?
Correct. I said some of the Muslim cultures that we're seeing from the Middle East.
No, you didn't say some of the Muslim cultures. You said Afghanistan, implying you think a whole country is one specific culture, and your culture that you can't define is superior.
So you think the Muslim culture is an inferior culture?
In a lot of ways, yes.
A good next question would be, in what ways is Muslim culture inferior to your culture that you can't define? And of course she never says, because you can't even define the culture she's defending, so why would she know anything about any other culture?
How would you feel if somebody said everybody that is Indian is inferior to Americans?
Would you say that about Indians, Priya?
Of course, and I would not. Of course not. I would never say that about any race or group of people.
You're a liar.
Afghanistan would be a Muslim culture.
You'd never say that any group of people is inferior, except you just said Muslims in multiple countries are inferior, but not a group exactly, but more like multiple groups that make up hundreds of millions of people.
Asshole!
Priya Patel is cosplaying as an adult because it's pretty obvious to me that she's a
Fucking child.
Subscribe!
to Slambagad.
Like the bloody video.